Hi young squirrelings, and welcome to the Path of Imagination. I'm Seraphim Bryant and I'm a story knight. You might even see my friend Kevin around. What's a story knight, you say? I'm a story knight. I'm big, I'm brave, I can battle dragons, I've got a weapon. Oh, actually you don't need any of those things. In fact, to be a story knight, all you need is a big imagination. I have a story for you. Would you like to hear it? This is the story of Emily Grace. Emily Grace had two long braided pigtails and two older brothers who liked to pull her pigtails. Emily enjoyed playing in the woods, but it wasn't always the girls. In fact, only the boys used to play in the woods, and that seemed silly to Emily, because she loved climbing trees. She would climb up and up, way past her brothers, up into the top of the tree because she wanted to touch the sky. She loved finding things deep down in the forest floor, acorns and leaves, and discovering new little creatures, and the big ones too. But Emily's mom thought she ought to be more girly. Emily, you stop jumping in those muddy puddles and getting that dress dirty. You come on in and help me clean this house. Emily didn't mind helping her mom clean the house. In fact, she made a game out of it. When she was asked to dust the shelf, she pretended she had a sword, and she dusted those crocks and knickknacks as if she were defending her own castle. Swish, 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 until crash. Mum's jug fell to the floor. So Mum gave her another job. You can go and sweep all the bedrooms. She made a game of it. She decided to sweep underneath those beds as if she was getting rid of the boogeyman. She swept, 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 and she jumped, 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 up and down, until crack, she broke one of the slats on the bed. Mum wasn't too impressed, so she said, you go and feed the chickens. Fine, said Emily. I like the chickens. Anyway, she dragged the big sack of corn over her shoulder as if she were rescuing a fellow comrade from battle. Don't you worry, I know where the field hospital is. It's over here. It's just where... Oh, where are the chickens? Emily checked under and over. She checked around the side of the house, round the other side of the house. She... But no chickens came. She went back to Mum. Mum, the chickens are gone. The chickens are gone, don't be so silly, girl, said Mum. But when Mum came out, those chickens had gone, and on the floor was a huge footprint, a dragon footprint. And oh dear, that dragon was there for the whole week. On Wednesday, he ate Mr. Foster's cows. On Thursday, he ate Mr. Foster's sheep. And on Friday, all the chickens and all the carrots in Mrs. Westfield were gobbled up. In fact, the dragon ate so much, he had a big belly full, and he curled up in Mrs. Foster's field and made a muddy little pit as his body went round and round and round. The villagers sent to the castle for a knight, and the knight, he came. But the dragon, he snatched him up in his mighty jaws and shook him back and forth until the poor knight fell out of his armour and he went scurrying away. After that, the villagers were in despair. What were they going to do? That mean old dragon was curled up in his muddy pit, enjoying his nice dinners and snoring away. not to mention burping. What are we going to do? Well, said the leader of the village, we better keep feeding him, otherwise we're going to be next. So for another week, the villagers fed the dragon. They took him cows and sheep, and they baked him bread and brought him potato cakes, until they too were starting to get really hungry. Emily Grace was not happy. Her tummy was getting achy and all rumbly. Why should the dragon have all the food? That's when Emily came up with a plan. She decided to go down to the kitchen. She got out the big mixing bowl. She put the last of the flour in. She put some eggs in that she could find. And she put in some milk and some butter and lots and lots and lots of sugar. In fact, so much sugar, she even went next door to Mrs. West and got her sugar too. What is she doing? Asked Mrs. Frost of Emily's mom. I don't know. I think she's baking a cake, said Emily's mom. Cake. Emily was baking a cake, but she had got some special ingredients she was going to put in. She mixed that big bowl up, and then when it got dark, she snuck out. She snuck down to the marshes where she picked some water hemlock. Now she had to be careful. Water hemlock's really poisonous. So she had to wash her hands with lots and lots of soap after she threw it in the bowl. She gave it a good mix in, stirred it up really good, and she was still worried that, oh, you might still be able to smell the bitter hemlock. I know, she thought, I'll pick some primroses. I'll dip them in honey and sprinkle sugar on the top. So she baked her cake. She decorated it with flowers, and next she had to take it to the dragon. Emily still wasn't sure that she could deceive the dragon. So she got Mrs. Foster, Mrs. West and her mom to bake cakes in the other ovens in the village. Hopefully, she thought, that will disguise the smell of the hemlock. Emily got her big cake and she started to walk towards the dragon, but her legs were a bit wobbly. She didn't drop the cake. She tried to whistle, but her lips were a bit dry, so she thought, I'll hum instead. She pretended not to notice the dragon curled up in his muddy pit, and she clung to the cake. The dragon sniffed the air. He said, that smells good. Emily pretended a little longer not to see the dragon, and off she went. Is that for me? Asked the dragon. Oh, sorry, Mr. Dragon. I didn't see you there, said Emily. Oh, no, this isn't for you. This is a cake from my grandma. It's her birthday. But I like cake, said the dragon. I want cake. Oh, well, somebody will be along in a minute to feed you, Mr. Dragon. You don't need my cake, but I want cake. The dragon was hungry now, and Emily could tell. She could hear his tummy rumbling and his vast body lifting up out of the pit. Emily started to quake. Are you sure you want this cake? Yes, cake. But it's got lots of sugar in it. and all sorts of different ingredients. And with that, the mighty dragon snapped the cake up and gobbled it. Down in his belly it went, but it wasn't enough. All that talk of food and all those sweet smells of baking made the dragon kind of hungry. He looked at the very juicy, very pink and juicy and sweet looking Emily and thought, I'm going to eat her. Just then Emily spied what he was looking at and realized his intent. With that, she turned and ran, just in time as those jaws snapped close to her head. Poor Emily had to run for her life. The dragon lifted up his mighty girth and oh, it got stomachache. All that eating and being fed and all that laziness had made him get a really big belly. I had to heave it out of his muddy pit, and now he felt, oh, I feel a bit dizzy. Oh, maybe chasing this one's a little bit too much. Down at the edge of the woods, Emily dared to turn around and she saw the dragon crawl back into his muddy pit. She watched him writhe and squirm, and she saw a little tear fall from his eye as he wriggled and squiggled and tried to get rid of his bellyache. He went round and round and round, and the pool began to form as he went deeper and deeper and deeper. Just then the rains began to fall and the hole began to fill with water. And even now the water is all green and blue and still, and nobody, none of the villagers, has seen the dragon again. I wonder if he's still down there. So there ends our story. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoy stories about adventure, you might like this one. This is Max and Lucia, the Game Makers. It's by my friend Kevin Brook, who's also a story night. And guess what? I got to draw the pictures. Now, if you really like adventure and you want to get involved, every year we have a storytelling competition here in Worcestershire, and you can get involved. We love to hear about you. And even more so, Kevin and I like to hear from you about your stories that you've made up. And you can get in contact with us on our social media profiles, or down below on this video. You can leave us a comment and we'll try and get back to you. But just remember, keep that imagination flowing. You never know, the next story could be yours.